We're here.
Hi,
We're
Yvonne.
here.
Yeah,
Hi,
here we
Evie.
are.
How are you?
I'm fine. Aren't you happy we're here?
I'm so happy we're here. What a convenient word to have. Happy. And yeah. So and of course that does mean we're looking at happiness this week. Happiness, and also looking at it through the lens of positive intelligence. And I don't know about you, Evie, but I've watched Shazad talk about happiness in the community, and really fascinating perspective. Kind of really, it's like, oh wow, yeah, so powerful
It is.
because I think, when we look out at the world and we see everything that's going on, it's so easy to disconnect from the thought of happiness, much less experience it. And I guess what I love about Shazad's message is that, that doesn't define our happiness. And that doesn't mean to say that we don't get to feel what we feel about the things that are going on, but that is not how we define our happiness. That really sits, that sits with me, and certainly how I show up. But what about you, Evie?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I don't, sometimes like I would disconnect completely from like outside stimuli, let's say, like I won't watch the news, and I want, like if I need to be informed, I am informed with different ways. I just don't engage with that, so I can stay, some people say, in my own little bubble. Some might say, like just keep um my perspective a little bit crispier and clearer, and focused on what I want to do and how I can influence the world and my world, rather than the external stuff that will never stop happening.
Yes.
But I also, by doing that, I find that I come across people and circumstances that prove to me that all the doom and gloom that we see in the news or around us, they're not things that are not happening, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of good things that also happen that we don't get to see so freely. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how I take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for me, that sense of, you know where is happiness generated? And I think if you're going through life waiting for external things to be the happiness, you may have a really long wait. And I think that that's something we all need to just think about. Just be curious about. If my happiness depends on everything outside of myself, when will I ever truly be happy? Because we know that things outside of ourselves can always be shifting, can always be changing. And one of the things that I took away from listening to Shazad talk is that, happiness is the experiences of positive emotions you have throughout the course of the day. So even when you sit back and you think, oh, I've had such a rubbish day today, it was just awful. Actually, if you were to dissect it down into the small pieces, there are definitely, or there are likely to be, a couple of moments when you had a sense of happiness. Now, whether that was getting home from work and kicking off your shoes and thinking, oh, how joyful, oh, this feels so good, right? But that's a moment of happiness. So this is what, and these are the things that are really easy to miss, because we expect happiness to be this bouncing off the wall, out there kind of thing. That's when you're happy. Happiness can be found in those little moments, which is why we talk about gratitude so much, and how actually when we feel gratitude, how that brings about a sense of happiness. And I think for me, definitely, I've long since let go of looking for happiness, expecting it to show up in someone or something, and rather just saying, what are those things that happen through the course of the day that I can feed on? And a classic example, and I will share this because I went to see my children, my grandchildren, a couple of weeks ago. Had a lovely weekend, came back with a virus from hell. That's all I can say about that. I was not loving it in any shape or form, and I was not happy. I can put an absolute line under that. However, in that state of feeling like, and just in discomfort of not feeling great, I was getting these little flashbacks from the weekend, like my grandson sleeping with me and tucked up behind my back, and just thinking, oh, that was just so gorgeous. There's a moment of happiness. I mean, that was a memory imprinted, but that was a moment of happiness where I actually was smiling so much because I was thinking that was just so gorgeous, and how gorgeous was it to have some time with him, and all of those things. So yes, I can say that for the best part of that day, I was not in happy land. But every time I had those glimpses from the weekend, and every time I remember thinking, how fortunate am I to have that family? How fortunate am I to be able to take time out to go and do it? All of those positive emotions that came up were my connection to happiness. And I didn't have to go anywhere for it. I mean, I'd also had the weekend there, but I didn't have to go look for it. These were just things that were coming up. And I think, when we can remember that happiness can come from joy, it can come from love, it can come from empathy, from curiosity, from being in awe, which is why I love going out into nature. Like, I'm always blown away by nature. I'm always like, wow. And the bird song and stuff like that blows my mind. They are moments of happiness. What about you?
It is great. No, I like I don't think I'm as articulate as you are with this, or like how. But I remember an exercise that I was told once to do, which was great. I think I like at the end of the day, like find the smiles, and it's like just find those moments that you did smile, and no matter, as you said, how bad your day has been. Somebody smiled at you and you smiled back. You made somebody's day by just, I don't know, holding the door for them, or letting them pass as you were, like driving. There are moments. There are always moments. And we need to stay there. And like what I was thinking while you were talking there is that, yes, we tend to just shift the moment of happiness somewhere in the future. I will be happy if, I will be happy when. But this by itself is somehow like not I want to say a myth. It's not about being a myth. It's just it's an illusion, because you really don't have to wait to create the sense, to create the the feeling. And it doesn't take long for someone to just put a smile on their face and take things on stride, even when, as you said, you had the virus from hell, but you said, okay, I'm going to focus on something different, not of my discomfort. And I think this is the beauty of it, like knowing that you are in control of the situation and of your own happiness as well. Because a lot of us also are looking for happiness on, like, somebody else will give me happiness, like I'll find the special partner that is going to give me happiness, or I'll get the next job that will give me happiness, or I'll I don't know, go to the spa whenever, and that will give me
Yes,
the sense of happiness. But
absolutely. And here's the thing, all of those things may bring some happiness. However, how long does that happiness really last for? I go to the spa, I have an amazing listen, I love a spa. So I can say I'll go to the spa, I'll have an amazing time. I will absolutely enjoy it. But actually, the after effects, it's not really about the spa. What I will take away and what will be the lasting happiness is just how good I feel. Like how I feel. This is like in my body. That's here. It's not the spa. It's just how I feel. So I think this behavior pattern and thought pattern that we have, as humans, I'm going to say generally, tying happiness to, and it has to be this in order for me to have that, is the challenging part that we have. And interestingly, when you were saying about that kind of futuring, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, then a lot of that comes from the saboteurs, right?
Absolutely.
We know that that's just saboteur thinking, because the saboteur only wants you to think you can be happy if a certain set of circumstances have occurred. And yet, as we do our mental fitness and we become more kind of inclined to use the sage part of our brain and access that wisdom, we begin to understand that joy can be found in the tiniest little moments, unexpectedly, when we are being present and we're noticing what's going on right now. And when we have shifted from all of those thoughts and beliefs that tell us that, I'm not enough, I don't deserve, it'll never happen for me, because all of those patterns come from the saboteurs, and they also separate us from a sense of happiness.
Absolutely. And the bottom line is that, like you can't wait. You really don't know what the future holds. So it's better if you don't wait. It's better if you create an environment inside you. I'm not talking about outside, because the circumstances might be really not ones that make you happy. But like the inside can always, like be what you choose. Like often in the UK, people tell me, "Oh, the weather is bad," and I say, "Okay, I mean, you're here. It doesn't matter. Let's find out, like a good weather inside of us, and then it doesn't matter where we are, and
Absolutely.
that's the whole point." Because also what I find really interesting, or what Shajad is saying, is that, like for every like bad thought, we have to have three good thoughts to counteract it. And you can imagine, because we have the tendency of like focusing and staying with the bad thought. That's the reason why we need to have the three thoughts to like balance things out. So it is a choice. And yes, circumstances are not always favorable. They can be really bad. But
Yeah.
how we deal with that, and being present, even being present with the bad circumstance, will probably give somebody a clearer mind to deal with the challenge. And get out of it much faster in a more creative and rewarding way.
Yeah, I agree. And I know Shazad talks about duality, like, the positive, the negative, whatever, they are necessary. They are
Absolutely.
necessary. So if we know that they're necessary, like they'll always exist, so that we understand the other, if you like, or, we understand what the other is doing, then we know that there will always be challenges, there will always be difficult times, there will always be moments when we just think, oh, I'm done with all this, I can't cope, I can't. Those moments will always show themselves, and then we have that choice to make: is, do I now get stuck in that thinking, uh, and I'm not going to say that it's always easy to come out of it, when depending on what it is, but do I want to get stuck in that feeling? Or, as we would say from the sage perspective, do I want to open myself up to, so this isn't about necessarily seeing it straight away, the gift and the opportunity? What might this what might come out of this? Because we don't, you know, when we're stuck in something, we don't ask ourselves what might come out of it. We're just stuck in it, right? You know, when the
100%.
we're just stuck in it. But why, you know, from the curiosity perspective, why don't we ask ourselves, I can't see it right now. I can't even feel it right now because I'm in this thing. But what? I wonder what might come out of this. And it always reminds me of the stallion story that he talks about. You know, it's neither good nor bad. It's
Correct.
like what's the next thing that comes out? It's neither good nor bad. So it's this unfolding, and that for me reminds us that this is a journey. This is not, so whatever moment that we're in, this is this moment. Be as present with it as you can be and squeeze as much juice out of it as you can, because there will be another moment, and that other moment may impact you very differently, and then there'll be another moment. And it reminds me of a client that I had who was, when I met her, was, she, you know, she was in depression. I mean, there is no other, she was in depression. That was the beginning and the end of it. And as soon as we'd had our conversation, and I had a real sense of the patterns that were coming up for her, what patterns were she was kind of going through and what were keeping her in a particular place, I immediately just came up with a couple of things that we were going to do, and that immediately broke that pattern. And so, you know, for example, getting out of bed and, you know, closing the curtains, not wanting to come out, all of that stuff. So one of the first things that we did, and this was actually quite a big thing for someone to do who was so stuck in that place, was, okay, so we're going to meet on a Monday morning and we're going to walk and talk. So boom, like this, like, for now that could have completely freaked somebody else out, but she really just took it like, okay, well, if that's what you're telling me, we need to do, that's what we're going to do. And that immediately broke her pattern, and it changed the rest of her week. So, you know, Monday was like an awful day after an awful weekend, and the week just got worse, and then the weekend would be again. Now suddenly she had this break on a Monday that was just like, okay, I'm moving, I'm outside, I'm hearing things, somebody's listening to me. She had a lot of other things that were suddenly going on that meant that when she went into her week, things, little things, and I mean just micro things, began to change for her. So what I guess what I'm saying from that is that understand that it doesn't have to be something massive in order for you to feel happiness. It's about being able to think or feel what brings me joy in this moment. Is it that I'm really curious about something? Is it that I feel really creative in this moment? All of these things come from Sage, right? So these are things that can generate happiness. And I think that's what we need to remember. That's what we need to tie it to.
100%. I mean, hearing the story of your client, the whole thing as well was that you gave her the opportunity to see the possibility that she had. So it was like you were giving her a bit of power back, and choice. So I think those things are important for us to shift the way that we do and live life every single day, because it seems like it is that hard thing that we need to do every day, and we need to juggle so many things, a lot of which we cannot really control. But there are things that we can control. And as long as we learn how to do those and control those, then it's easier to show up with the rest of the stuff that are out of our control. And I think that makes the difference to how, you know, you can feel the happiness, the joy, and that it's up to you at the end of the day, that it's up to you. I think this is important. And words, language is so powerful.
Yes.
And people, you know, like without thinking, they keep talking to themselves in such strong and wrong language And they just, really don't notice it. And that's all, as you said, the saboteurs, like judging us, judging us, judging us. And of course, when you feel so judged and you feel so inadequate and you feel overwhelmed and you feel, where is the happiness in there? Where is the joy in there? Where is that glimpse of light?
Yeah,
And we all need that.
indeed. Absolutely. And actually, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, and each of the saboteur has its own way of kind of dimming your happiness, given the opportunity. Now, the judge, and the judge is always a kind of great example because we all have to judge.
Yeah.
You know, beginning and the end, whether we want to accept it, believe it or not, we kind of all have the judge. And the judge will always be saying, you can only be happy if you prove that you're worth it, if you prove that you're perfect, if the people around you are perfect and good, the judge is always looking for that. So if you can imagine that there's that voice constantly bickering at you in the background, eating away at any possibility of happiness. So our ability to be able to realize that and be aware that actually that's not what I want. I don't want that voice kind of unfolding my life. That's not what I want. So what's the work that I'm willing to do so that that doesn't become the thing that's constantly ruling me? And I know for me, with what were my two top saboteurs, restless and avoider, the restless is just like, if I do 2 million things, then I'll be happy. That's what the restless wants to tell me. The restless wants to say, come on, Yvonne, if you do this and then do that and then do this and then then you'll be happy. Great that I've been able to close that voice down to an absolute minimum. But actually, before I did positive intelligence, I didn't even realize that was a pattern that had been constant. And the realization of that was like, oh my goodness gracious me, that needs some work, because that is not going to be the way I run my life unfolds. And my avoider was like, you'll be happy as long as you don't have any conflicts, as long as you don't get into arguments, as long as you just be cool and calm. No, actually, there are times when conflict is necessary. And so again, when we start to understand those patterns that our saboteurs are kind of pouring out, we begin to understand what is necessary for us to do to come back to self and to come back to our wisdom and our sage and let that go, because it can absolutely not only drain you, but really just drain the joy out of life. And life does not have to be perfect for you to experience happiness.
Yeah, that's true. And I would also like to take it from a different perspective as well. Like with our sage, we do, yes, the idea is to be able to find the gift and opportunity in anything that comes your way, whether it is negative or positive or whatever. I mean, usually when it's negative. When it's positive, you find it, no problem. But if you can't, there is also another solution, and that is like to let it be as is. Because when you're relating like this, when you're just saying, okay, I can't control it, I can't deal with it right now, I'm not. I'm going to give it, to let it be. Because again, you don't know when the time will come that you will get the light bulb moment and say, that's why this happened.
Yeah.
Or it will not matter anymore. It will lose its gravitas, for you.
Yeah.
So, and I think because sometimes I find very hard, and I know a lot of people do, like, where is the gift and opportunity now in this? And it's like really, really hard. But thankfully, Shazad has given us the other option. And
Absolutely.
I think that is like, it might not be easy still, but it's easier, I think, than the gift and opportunity. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they all have a place. I think, acceptance, and this is something that actually Shazad says a lot about, is like, if the gifted opportunity may not even if you want the gifted opportunity, it may not come to you straight away. And
Right.
that's okay, because now is not a time for you to start putting pressure on yourself to try and see the gift of the opportunity. It's about then saying, I'm going to accept what is right now, because there isn't anything I can do right now that can shift that, change that, or reshape it in any way. So I'm going to accept it. I'm just going to be open to the gifted opportunity. And that for me is the language that I use for myself. I'm just open to the gifted opportunity. It will show up if it's going to show up when it shows up, and that's okay. And in the meanwhile,
Absolutely.
I have the opportunity to just accept what is, if there's nothing I can do. And if there is something I can do, what is the one small action I can take straight away?
Yeah, that is key as well. And just taking that action, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I think that makes you sort of solidify the fact that you are in control, even in that small action. And then, if you like follow it up by celebrating, which is like what we definitely encourage you to do, then it becomes like a habit that really will serve you throughout and will make you feel the happiness or the joy, without really the need of anything outside of you. And
Exactly.
I think that by itself is a great gift. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I guess just to reiterate that thing, if we tie happiness to things and people outside of ourselves, then we have to also accept that happiness will shift, because things are constantly shifting. People in our lives shift, situations in our life shift. So whilst it's wonderful that we may find happiness in situations and in relationships and with people, that if that's the only place that we look to have happiness or to get happiness from, then life may feel like more of a struggle than it needs to. Because these
Absolutely.
little moments where you can literally just, and I'm going to say, when I say choose to experience happiness, is it reminds me actually, and I have to say this about, I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie Brown. So this is like in my childhood, this
Of
is Charlie
course.
Brown. And happiness is, holding hands. Happiness is sharing. Happiness is having someone who listens to you. And I used to love all those little quotes. They were just so cute. Yeah. And sometimes just remembering those little things and knowing that they can come from self. Because actually, yes, sometimes my happiness is knowing that I can tune into myself. I can be with myself. I can listen to myself. Those things can bring me as much happiness as expecting, wanting, hoping that somebody else out there will hold that space for me. Because that is a beautiful and wonderful thing when somebody else does. However, I don't want to live the rest of my life expecting and hoping that that will always be the case. Sometimes we have to understand that joy and that happiness is within us. And can we access it? And, in a 24-hour span, can I access it twice in that 24 hours? And then remember that, and remember what that thing is that I was doing, that sensory thing that I was doing, or the words that I was saying, or the things that I was feeling, so that I can always tap back into it.
Yeah, it is strong. And as you say, like language is, I mean, I keep going back to that. I mean, maybe it's because like earlier on I was watching something, and like the way that was reframed, I thought it was amazing. I can't remember the speaker, but they were saying that like if you go in a room of people and say, well, I have this problem, then you sort of like lost them, because people really care about their own problems, in a way. Okay. But like, listen to the language now. If you go and say, I'm excited to solve this challenge, or to find ways to solve this challenge. And now it becomes a conversation, it becomes like a possibility, it becomes so many other things. And it excites you that you are saying it, and it excites everybody else around you because they can contribute. And it is something that is like almost like going from a stagnant thing to
Mm,
something moving, and it's really vibrant and full of possibilities. So yeah, I think language and finding your way or your happiness in smaller things, immaterial of the goal, right? Because we
exactly.
always or we some of us don't, but most of us do have goals. But it's different to say I will be happy when I get X, and it's different to say I will be happy every step of the way until I get X. And there is a Greek poet that has written a poem about this. Like it says, it's called Ithaca, and probably people know it's very famous as a poem. And it says it's not about Ithaca. It's about, because Ithaca is a destination. It's about
Mm,
the actual trip, and
yes.
how like Ithaca in essence gave you the gift of the trip, the gift of getting
Yeah,
there.
indeed.
So this is
Yeah,
something I really wanted to
yeah.
share
And again,
here.
it's very sage thinking, isn't it? So it's not tied to the destination. It's it's actually just enjoying, finding ways to enjoy the journey, taking the lessons. So when the challenges and stuff, yeah, be like, wow, what does this mean for me? What am I being asked to think about? What am I being asked to learn? What is that thing? So again, when we start thinking about challenges, problems, whatever we want to call them, but we start looking at it with that curiosity and that desire to explore, that already changes how we feel. That changes our chemistry. That gives us that sense of, wow, what is possible? What might this end up being? And the same with goals. The reason not to get so clawed and hooked into what that end result is because the end result may be bigger than anything you could even imagine.
Correct.
So great to have, but do the journey. Do the journey and really access those happy moments along the way, and really get curious. And when you feel that stagnant, and stagnant is a really great word, by the way, Evie. Because when we're stuck, it is stagnant. We feel stuck in something. When
Yeah,
they won't occur, because yeah, they probably will. Remind yourself that, okay, so I may not be able to do anything about this immediately right here. So I'm going to accept that. But what's one thing that can contribute to a happier way of being right now? What might that be? What might that be? And go there, because it will serve you better than going down into that dark space that just the further down you get, the darker it gets, and then the harder it feels to come back out of it.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know, like I would definitely leave this space today with one thing: there are so many more good things out there than the bad things that people are bombarding us with through media and mostly the news. There are so many people that are doing fantastic work, collaborations, and people that are sharing love and brightness, that it's really amazing. And they're not people that are having it easy. They're people that are having that power and that strength through diversity, and
Yes,
that is even more powerful. So look for
absolutely.
those people, or if you cannot find it in you. But I think each and every one of us has the possibilities in
Yeah,
them, and the options to find them. And as a controller I love that I can control, my own happiness in that sense.
You can access your happiness, right? And then I think that's the thing. We can all we have the capabilities to access it. And even though it may not feel like it all the time, and it doesn't feel like it all the time, you don't have to access it all the time. Nobody is, we're certainly not sitting here saying you need to be happy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because, let's get real. I've already said that does not work for me. So, it's okay to know that those moments come, but if we acknowledge those moments every time they come, that in and of itself is like food. That feeds us, that replenishes us. So hold on to those moments, because they matter. They matter because they don't just affect us, they affect the people who are around us. Yeah. We've got a message here from Marie. It's so wonderful listening to you both. We all know our destination. We must create happiness along the way and love the journey. 100%, Marie. 100%.
Absolutely.
And be blessed and understand. For me, like a gift of waking up. If I wake up tomorrow, that's already a gift. That's a win for me straight away. So just remember that the emphasis is not on all the materialistic stuff that we can go and collect and have, and woohoo, now I'm happy. There are so many more important and valuable things that bring us true happiness, what I call true happiness, and that's the stuff that just lights us up inside. Having time with you, Evie, that's one.
Always loving being here, Yvonne, and sharing this space.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's it for this week. We hope that you can find those moments of happiness and really see them, and when you see them, really enjoy them and be with them, even if they only last for a minute. It doesn't matter. Just be completely with that sense of happiness in that moment. And trust me, when the more your body starts to feel that and hold it, it will generate more. It will generate more. You'll start to notice more of the little things that truly matter.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Wishing you all a beautiful day and week ahead. Go bathe in happiness, and we'll be back next week
with something different.
With something different.
Let's be curious.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Evie.
Thank you, Yvonne.